Welcome to K2's Personally Speaking podcast, a series that shines a light inside a highly successful global mobility organization with human centricity at the heart of everything. Each episode takes a look inside K2 and toward the people behind the business, the brand, and the success of the Because It's Personal ethos. Global Marketing Director James Marshall is joined on each episode by colleagues from around the globe to discuss their role, their background, special projects, and to find out what they bring to deliver a truly unique service to clients, relocating families, and business service partners.
Welcome to this next episode of Personally Speaking. I'm here with Dan Natoli, Managing Director of K2 Bespoke, and the lofty heights of K2 Bespoke. And we're here today to chat all things not service for once, but we've just released a rebrand for the bespoke side of the business and the team. And we're sort of going to dive in a little bit deeper around what that brand means, why it was created, how it's being created. So this is a little bit different because I think you're going to have some questions for me and I've got some questions for you. And so maybe let's start with finding out a little bit about you, and then when we come to talk on the brand, I can maybe talk a little bit about where my background's come from as well. But your life started at K2 how long ago? Where's it taken you? You're now Managing Director of Bespoke. How'd you get here?
Yeah, so thanks, James. Thanks for inviting me to do this today.
You don't really mean thank you,
no,
do you? Because you're hating
right.
every moment of it.
You're right. It's my favourite thing to be on camera. So listen, I joined K2 in 2017. I mean, I've been in the industry, I stopped counting at 25 odd years. Large proportion of that time I've spent delivering relocation services, sometimes on site with clients, but the focus throughout has really been for essentially that senior population, that executive tier level, that real high touch support. I spent 8 to 11 years on site at an investment bank, managing the moves for their managing directors and partners, and really demanding place where the expectations were super high.
So you earned your stripes, really.
Yeah, and
within,
and there's a number of those alumni at K2 actually, which kind of drew me in, and I felt that the standards that were set at this organisation were super high, and the expectations too. So it actually meant that having come out of that experience, I really learned a lot and about what really high standards look like, and the expectations from communication all the way through to delivering.
It is literally everything, right, as well, because high standards it's a mindset as well, rather than, and we'll talk again, we're going to talk about the brand and those standards and what have you.
It's integral to what we're doing and the rebrand and everything else, but fundamentally that really set me up for success. Joining K2 was really a new adventure for me. It was an organization that was obviously much smaller, but really had that high touch, high quality through its DNA right from the beginning. So I joined on a European leadership role, but actually quite quickly we had clients at K2 and outside that weren't working with K2, recognizing what we were doing, came to us and said, we need some help for our most senior population. And so really from there, I put my 8, 11, 20 years of training into gear here, and with Nick, our CEO, and the rest of the board, we kind of crafted what is now K2 Bespoke, right? And it is that recognition that this population is different in many ways and needs something different. So typically, and we'll talk about more later, but high net worth individuals with complex lives, multiple homes, cars, wine.
Started with corporates, things. But again, we'll talk about where the journey's taken us on there. So you were part of the original. You were part of the creation of Bespoke.
Yes,
and you were part of the original brand. That we were one of the only sort of providers in the industry that were really talking directly to that upper tier population and really honing skills and really sort of addressing the nuances of that service, right?
Yeah, and listen, not to say that other organizations don't have a VIP program, but from my experience, what I've seen is that, and what we've done at K2 is try to really provide a level of service that that captures the full life cycle of that relocation experience, and really try and make sure that both from the people that we recruit, the methodology that we have in place, the communication styles, and all of those components really do provide that level of service that we require. I know we're not supposed to talk about service today so much, but I think it is so integral in the brand and what we're trying to achieve.
That's the point.
We try and project manage every one of these moves because they are often complex and often require that level of detail. So, yes, we've really tried to do what I would say is a proper job on that executive tier service. Right?
So, onto the brand.
Yes.
So the project started, or the conversation began, sort of mid to late 2024, I think, where there was an obvious need to elevate the brand. So go through a rebrand, if you like. Not necessarily just from a visual perspective, because maybe, look, you know how it is with any brand project. You can sort of get worn down by it internally if you're seeing it every day, and you forget, obviously, new clients, prospects, what have you, they're seeing it for the first time every time, unless they're repeating clients. But also that there was the business had changed quite a bit. And what I'm really interested in, obviously, I sat on the side of the delivery of the brand, but you and your team sit very much on the side of that understanding of what the client's needs and requirements are and how they're changing. And now's probably a good time to talk about not just our existing client base, corporates, or prior to this rebrand, but also acknowledging that there's a need also there's an audience out there outside of corporates, personal moves, people in film, music, professional sports, individuals, government, so on and so forth, right? And they're all services that we cover. Like, let's talk about that a little bit.
It's an evolution,
yeah.
Right? I mean, ultimately, yes, as an organisation, K2 has always predominantly provided services to corporate organisations that of a certain size that move talent internationally as part of a mobility program. That's fundamentally what K2 has been designed to provide. But outside of that, probably through recommendation and other connections through the K2 that do so well, we've had personal moves. So I may have moved with my company, but now I'm not there anymore, but I need some support, or I've spoken to my friend who really wants some help. So personal moves or private moves, however we want to term them, are something that K2's always done, mostly through recommendation and that. But we recognised that there was a market outside of that corporate world where there are lots of individuals, and you mentioned yourself, high net worth individuals that, or people that sit within that film, entertainment, sports, family offices that need, that can go and get individual services to help them move nationally or internationally, individually elsewhere. But what we do so well, you can go to a mover, you can get to an agent to help you find a home. But what we've successfully managed to do for our corporate clients is weave that together to provide a holistic solution that enables, let's say, a sports person and their family who has very similar needs, and they're likely, especially at the successful end, they're likely to have large homes, specific requirements, high expectations on service quality. They have nice holidays, nice cars, wine collections, artwork, pianos, and whatever else. So very similar demographic to our top tier corporate clients, and therefore these people we recognized actually have a similar need. The way we communicate, the way we interact with them is different in a lot of ways, but actually their needs still need to find a home, still find a school for their children, still need to move their belongings. So,
the surface in its totality is the same.
Is the same, yeah. But they come from a different place. They come to us is a different place. So, this rebrand enabled us to bring together what we were already doing for this new audience and making sure that others were aware that this is what we're doing and can do and where our expertise lies. So it helped us to make sure that, in terms of the how we are seen and perceived outside, and be able to truly market ourselves in the right way, which has come through word of mouth predominantly. But growing up as a service, we need to make sure that people know that's what we're doing and what we're good at.
And I know that when we were working on the project, like when the team and I were really trying to understand, how do we communicate to a sports professional, how do we take one vehicle and communicate to a sports professional so they get that we understand their needs and requirements. Film and media, music, kind of similar-ish. Some of it will be sort of short-term moves and quick turnaround, quick deployments, so on and so forth. How do we talk about that compared to, I'm now talking to someone that's moving themselves personally, or I'm now talking to a large corporate and we're moving 10 or 12 individuals with them?
Well, fundamentally, when you're looking at the corporate world, you're talking about an individual, but within a recognized body of other members of that organization. So you are often working to a policy, maybe not so much at this top tier, but still within a framework that the organization has put in place to move its most senior talent, or its talent as a whole. You might be talking, we have clients that move hundreds and even into the thousands of people every year. So our service fits in within that framework, whereas you as a sports individual or entertainment,
I'm not a sports individual.
No, but you as a client is just about you and what are your specific needs, right? And so we tend to find that, certainly at that senior world within the corporate world, they're moving to tier 1 cities. They're not so much moving at the most senior level to tier 3. 4 cities in the middle of nowhere. That executive population is typically in.
And the thing that was interesting for us actually is not like, if I'm communicating directly to you, I'm not going to say you're a sports. I'm going to say you're a film star. Okay. And I'm communicating directly to you as a film star. Like when I get that opportunity, that's the easy bit. Yeah. Like when I'm talking to that audience or that audience, that's the easy bit. The challenging bit is how you adjust your narrative of K2 Bespoke to talk to multiple audiences that have very different demands, and how can we cater for all of those? And I think when I look back at where we started and we came up with this wonderful concept of we actually, when we started the project, Andy, one of our designers, and I we came up with these sort of three concepts. And one we felt quite strongly about, and we went down a bit of a rabbit hole of Japanese teapots, right? And the Japanese, right? And bear with me, because not only visually was it really, it created a heightened sense of curiosity. Already when I say it, you're like, what? But like the beautiful colours of the clay and all of this sort of stuff, we're like, oh, this is fantastic. And we sort of went down this route of, Japanese teapot is because it's handcrafted and you have to, it's handed down through generations, the ability to do it, the knowledge of doing it, and it's kind of like, but it's still a teapot. At the end of the day, it's a tea, right? And it can be the most beautiful teapot, right?
This is where the people like myself who do the work have to put some boundaries within the creativity.
Listen, I'll be honest with you. I still feel confident we could have come to you, and I reckon I could have convinced you the teapot is the way forward, right? Okay. But that was one of 3 concepts. The one that's now the concept, and the one that we really, really settled on was this concept of beyond. And that was the piece. Like, we just had this word beyond, and it was like this. We got mileage in this, not the obvious one. I mean, we use it, go above and beyond, but it's like beyond unique, beyond expectation, beyond the norm, beyond what you experience from every other provider, right? So we came up with this concept of how cool would it be if we had this word beyond, and actually what you'll do, and you will have seen at the beginning of this podcast, we do it in all our films. You actually go literally beyond the word beyond, right? So you go through the O beyond, and you go into this sort of the concept is you always go into this star field. So you now are sitting, like you're so far elevated above from it. You can then drop into the detail because it allows you. And what we're trying to illustrate there is that our clients, whether they're personal moves, corporate client, whatever, the reason that they would benefit from using the services of K2 Bespoke is it allows them to keep their head in the detail. They're where they're creative, making their money, living their lives, whatever it may be. You keep your focus on the detail. Let us hover above. We'll do absolutely everything else exceptionally. Yeah. And I think that's the bit that we really wanted to capture. And then visually, we were able to bring it to life with not predictable. We have got some predictable photography of our team, Bespokers, as we're referring to them, but also photography of our clients, photography of personal movers, all of this sort of stuff, right? Yeah. Beautiful. But we were also able to add this layer of curiosity, this intrigue, with this sort of close-up, what we call our beyond photography. So we have like our starfield photography, our beyond photography, then our sort of subject photography, assignees and so on and so forth.
Yeah, and I think, and I've said it to you many times, I've been in industry a long time, and I get what we're trying to do, but my creativity, my totality and the fibre of every creativity in my body probably fit in one of your fingertips. So when
we started this, you were like, it's just a logo.
Yeah, I know, and I kind of mock it a little bit. Branding is just a logo, right?
But you never said
and
to
I'm
me,
happy with the logo, so why do we have to do it?
You never said to me, can you make the logo a little bit bigger?
No.
Anyone that is involved in branding projects,
that's it.
There's like a book full of terms that a client will say to you. Classic one, can you make the logo a little bit bigger? Yeah. Can I try it with this image? What does this color look like? But you guys actually, where the team and I got immense sort of creative strength was actually that it's very rare that a client will say, I'm just going to trust you, leave you to it. I mean, we got that.
You and I have worked for a number of years,
3 years.
I think we spent quite a lot of time together on just trying to make sure that we are completely understanding what we're trying to do while we're doing it, and some of the challenges within it, and where we excel, and where that kind of human-centric, attention to detail and truly driving excellence. And I think I've always loved that imagery of the crafting of something, whether that be the teapot, but actually, the tailor.
Yeah, the teapot still features.
Yeah,
that's homage to concept one.
Who makes a bespoke, tailored outfit to, even some of our old imagery with the Japanese calligraphy, and those things. And I think that has always been integral to how we shape our service and how we really look to provide that level of detail to make it to also impact how somebody feels. It really is about, and you used a brilliant word of effortlessly efficient and effortlessly personal, and making sure that somebody's experience is really at the level that somebody really has from a top-end hotel, that kind of feeling that you get when you walk, not that I've done it, but, walking into first-class lounge.
Yeah, tell your story, mate. Yeah. And look, and I wanted to touch on that. Firstly, when you talk about like the detail that you guys offer as a service, right? That really hyper-focused, available 24/7, all of this stuff, right? Really personal. Right down, when I take it back to the brand, even that we wanted to the font, and I know it got a bit of a chuckle when we presented it to the business, but the font is a bespoke font that we aptly named Bespoke. Yeah. And we really
did blow my mind to have my own font to be fair.
Yeah, and we really wanted to. It needed to be able to have a conversation like this.
Yeah.
So it's not just a logo, not just some pictures, not just some words on a page or on a screen, where it's really got substance behind it. And we, when we launched it on socials, one of the pieces of content that we put out there was that we did it from within. And what we meant by that was there's hundreds, thousands of incredibly talented branding agencies out there in London, in New York, in wherever, LA, wherever. But we knew that it's really difficult to articulate unless you're inside the business. It's really difficult to really grasp what it is that makes K2 as a group, but as Bespoke as well. And I remember speaking to Nick, our CEO, and saying, we really need to drive, if we're going to do this, we need to build a team inside the business to drive this brand, because only when an individual can really live and understand and breathe the brand, that's when we can get the true essence of that brand, and actually more importantly, the designer can really get the confidence to push that curiosity, because they understand it and they're not just thinking, well, I'm creating curiosity, but actually I'm curious myself because I don't quite get it.
And James, you're absolutely right. And in previous iterations, working with Nick and the board to try and some of the earlier branding exercises that we've done, the biggest challenges were really to getting these third parties to understand what makes K2 tick.
You can't brief it.
And that journey is so much longer. That journey is so much challenged by the lack of understanding of what makes K2 what it is, but also our industry is very specialized. We have 1,000 activities to moving a family from A to B, and there's a lot of different components that can be really challenging. And so what we apply of ourselves and as a business to making that successful is not easy to capture in a second. And so a lot of what you said is absolutely right. And so what you and the team are able to do by having essentially our own agency within the business is huge, and has been a huge asset, I feel.
Yeah, no, and I think getting clear communication and backing it up with a brand that has substance and also provides all the tools to the business to understand it, because actually I remember when we presented it last Friday to your sort of global summit to the whole team, and sort of my opening statement is that this brand now gets handed over to the Bespokers, because Bespokers now they're the deliverers of this brand, of this promise, this beyond concept. Tell me a little bit about, has anyone given you any feedback in the team, what they think of, what do you think of it, actually? And then tell me what the team think of it.
Well, needless to say...
And be honest now, now's the time, we're on camera. Do you like it? You can say, actually, mate, I don't like it.
No, needless to say, I love it. I'm a blue guy, first of all, right? So I'm blue through and through. Yeah. And actually, it to me, as it captures what we're trying to achieve. It captures that consistency, it captures that level of elevation, and that has a real feel of exclusivity to a certain extent. But and I think it speaks to, the aim of this was really to make sure that it spoke about what we are doing internally, what we're trying to achieve, what is our identity as an organization, as a team, as a division within K2, but also it allows, hopefully, for our clients and for viewers from the outside to perceive it in the right way and be a true reflection of who we are and what we're trying to do. So I think you and the team have captured this brilliantly. There's some great video content there, which I think, I'd quite happily see on international films. You know, it really is. It's blown my mind, the level of quality that we've been able to achieve. You know, some of the films that we've done across, and the look and feel of the brand as a whole. So yes, I'm really over the moon. And as I said to you many times, I know the amount of work that has gone into producing something like that. And obviously we work together, but that the creativity that you've been able to bring into it, I think, has been really special.
Yeah, and I think thank you. And but as I said earlier, we couldn't do it without the support. But the thinking about what you see and know about it, really, for us, the ultimate goal is to hear what clients think about the new brand. And obviously, it was only launched on Friday, so there's no timestamp on this podcast, but we're basically sitting just less than a week after we launched the brand. So it's going to be fascinating to see how it evolves over time. There's lots of very cool stuff coming with the brand as well. It's given us that sort of that vehicle to deliver more, both from a communication perspective, both from a sort of knowledge share perspective, but also from an innovation perspective. You touched on films and stuff like that. It really, I always see that when you do either a brand new brand or in particular a rebrand, it's sort of it revitalizes everything. It's not just revitalizing what the public display of that brand, but it really does revitalize everyone inside that brand and around that brand as well. And I know that, as I say, when we launched it to the Bespokers on Friday, there's that sort of that walking a bit taller, that walking a bit stronger, you know, and that's really shouldn't be underestimated in a brand project around a successful project.
No, well, I think part of that was really making sure that the vision for Bespoke and the service, and the vision for them as individuals within that team and us as a business was clear. And as I said, it's how you feel within that team allows you to really want to deliver. And we've, you know, it's been part of our DNA right from the beginning of, you know, we give a lot to as a service we get really involved with individuals and families and their challenges and their children and all of those things. And it isn't just pick up a phone, send an email. And it isn't.
Yeah.
And I know it's a bit of a cliche, but we truly, we're with the family for weeks, months of time, and we really go through some of those challenges of getting personal belongings that are really part of that family, that individuals from A to B, as well as finding them the right home, finding them the right school for the children. And so actually, all of those things actually are much more than just a service and on a very flat level.
So I want to pick up on that actually, because as part of this rebrand project, we also, again, didn't just look at how we communicate, but really looked at some of the areas of the service delivery, right? So, for example, as part of this rebrand project, we've got the Bespoke K2 Bespoke platform that's evolving, delivering a piece of technology that will deliver messaging, or will be a sort of an online library of content specific to a moving party. So they've got access to that all the time. We've done a really cool collaboration with Stackers, so getting some of those beautiful products around helping relocating parties keep their jewelry, their watches, those really personal possessions really close. That's something that came in as part of the brand. And again, that really comes in from looking from inside out.
Well, we've looked at, and we consistently do this. Part of my job as a leader within this business, and I'm fortunate to have a board and leadership. Ultimate leadership from Nick, our CEO, has been incredibly supportive, visionary, I feel, in a lot of regards, and has enabled me and us to really kind of push the envelope. I've always felt that incredible support to and backing to be able to really create some cool stuff. And your involvement in this is a typical example of it. And you know, for us to be able to get together annually as for an offsite, get my whole team together is incredible. But yes, we look consistently at finding new ways to elevate what we do. How can we impact the experience positively? And technology, which is, I think, part of that, it's a huge part of that. As our changing world, even the most senior executives are using technology in a particular way, and everybody uses it differently. But we're trying to find ways that really bring value, not just technology for technology's sake, because I don't need an app for everything, but I do need to find ways to elevate that experience. We've got a lot of information that needs to be shared, a lot of processes, as I hinted earlier, that need to go through from, you know, packing up a house, customs clearance, finding a home, referencing, all of those things, you know, filling in applications for schools, you know, all sorts of things that need to happen. And so there's a lot of information that we drive through somebody's transition, you know, hopefully as seamlessly as possible. But, you know, to be able to put that in one place, easily accessible, and then looking at using AI processing and video content to really continue to elevate that experience is really exciting for me. And what you've been able to do using the tools, using the brand to really make that experience bring it to feel special.
Yeah, quite right. Yeah, that's very, very cool. Right, I've got a question for you. I want to, obviously we were talking questions, but I want to bring it back to the logo. What do the 3 stars on the logo mean to you?
Wow.
This bit might get cut out.
Yeah, Jesus. Could have warned me about this one. Go on, do the question.
Deliver it. 3 stars, logo. What do they mean to you?
What do they mean to the 3 stars? Well, I think when we looked at the logo originally, we were wanted to keep it within the part of the K2 group. And so we were looking at subtle changes to it to enable us to depict what
you're about to tell me it's just 3 stars, aren't you?
No, I'm not. I'm going to say I think that our population at this level and the kind of people that we're actually dealing with are a very small, select, high demographic population within the corporate world. These are really the leaders and pioneers within these industries. If you think of that board level person within these organizations, these are really the superstars and the leaders in the industry. It's a minute percentage. And so I would say these are the stars of those organizations. And similarly, when we look into film, when we look into sport, when we're looking into all of those areas, I think we are really talking about the very top tier. And we recognise early on they're the star. You
should work in marketing.
No, that's it.
So 3 stars in my mind always was us, them, and our partners coming together to deliver perfection, right? Yeah. But the reason I bring that up...
Maybe if we record this again, I'll say that.
I think we keep it in. The reason I bring it up actually is, again, because when we were looking at the project, when we were looking at the brand and we talk about the star fields, right? So you go through beyond and you end on the star. It was the logo that formed the inspiration for that. Yeah. So it worked. It maybe the audience can decide what they think the 3 stars were. To me, it always represented sort of us, our client, or the moving party, if you like, and the partner network.
That's a much better answer than mine, and frankly, which is why you do what you do and I do what I do. That element of creativity is definitely what rings true. Exactly.
Yes, I think the stars mean no, they don't mean that at all. I mean, who knows? I mean, you know, it's
no, but I think it is a really good point. You know, K2 is as a brand, as an organisation, has always been aspirational. I think the naming of it, and many people ask, and it's probably a bit of myth in terms of what, you know, the mountain and that journey and trying to reach for the top. And I think adding those stars, to my mind, when we settled on it, really was about creating something that goes, you know, even
I mean, it
further.
Certainly does.
And,
it felt
beyond analogy, I think it has really worked
even back in 2017, right? You know, and we're now, the brand is confident enough now where we're able to show the logo mark on its own in some instances. So, Previously it would always been logo marked with the word bespoke next to it, but certainly on things like socials and stuff like that, we're able now to sort of just use the logo mark with the stars rather than have the bespoke, because it is maturing in that way. And
as we have as an organisation, right?
As an organisation, as individuals,
the growth that we've had,
the industry, everything, right? And I hope that I really do. I'm immensely proud of the brand and how it looks, and the team. There's too many to mention that sort of worked in the background to help deliver that brand and that support. But I hope it's enjoyed by all of the Bespokers, everyone in the K2 group as well, because we're all in this together. It's, whilst you've got K2 Bespoke is part of a bigger group of companies that really have very similar, as you say, aspirations and a perfectly aligned culture fit around the globe. But also,
and I'm glad you mentioned the globe too, because I think one of the key things
that's not one of the stars.
It's not one of the stars, no. But I think one of the key things also is that as a team, as we have grown and developed the bespoke brand and service, I think it's really important to highlight that, from our Americas all the way across to Asia and Australia and all the way in between, we have to be able to provide a consistent service. We have to be able to provide that familiarity, that level of support. When it's an individual move, less so, but certainly, because what's the only thing that matters is that personal service for that individual. And every time we deliver a service, it is very much tailored to that individual. But as an organisation, and certainly when we talk at our corporate world, we need to be able to have that consistency and be able to do that globally. And so, there are different challenges moving somebody into Jakarta than there are into Sao Paulo in Brazil. So, but all of those things, are critical for us to be able to be consistent and keep our brand and reputation high. We have, I always say to people, we have a 0.1% of a margin of error in a lot of what we do, and so that ability to be able to ensure that all of us work seamlessly together and understand each other and what we need to do, and working with our partner, which is an incredible part of our service delivery. And whether we're moving a piano or a piece of art or some wine or normal household goods or finding a home, that ability for them to help us raise the bar is really critical. And so and I know you alluded to it earlier, and it's certainly part of our DNA. I think it's really important part of our success. So.
Thank you, man. Thank you everyone for taking the moment to listen to and watch our podcast. Check out k2bespoke.com, have a look. It'd be really cool to understand what anyone else thinks of it, and if you've got any ideas on what you think the 3 stars mean to Dan, then drop us a line, I guess.
That's it.
Brilliant. Thank you.
Thanks, James. Appreciate it.